I really questioned whether there's space for me here. Is there space for somebody who asks questions? My whole experience has been that I can't ask questions and that I should just follow. If I can't ask questions here and I can't learn here, maybe I need to find a different way of learning. My name is Vina and I am in the first year master's program in the philosophy department at Ryerson University. When I first heard about vaccines being mandated at Ryerson, I didn't really think about it too much because I thought that they would eventually catch on to the concerns regarding the vaccines. I thought it was just a matter of waiting until they catch on, and they'll probably never actually go through with a policy like that. Of course, the emails came eventually, and it became more real, more and more real. I mean, yeah, here we are having this conversation. I did disclose my vaccination status. Ultimately, I did in December, and I tried to hold off as long as I could. I was being told that I wouldn't be able to continue into my winter semester if I didn't disclose my status. It almost felt like I had to give up something just so that I could pursue something that I should have gotten in the first place, which is my education. There was a lot of emails telling us about the consequences if you don't disclose. So for example, you might lose access to key systems like RAMs. And then they just kind of would make general statements that your education is going to be disrupted. After reading it so many times, I decided that I didn't really want to give up those opportunities yet. So ultimately, I just disclosed. I came to understand that the more that you comply, the more privileges you would get. So for example, if you don't disclose at all, you basically have no options. If you do disclose, you actually could take online courses. It's very limited, but that is a possibility. But it's kind of interesting because the school doesn't really make that explicit for you. So you kind of have to read between the lines. If you do disclose and then you say that you are vaccinated, that's when you get the full privileges and everything you had paid for in your tuition. If you did not disclose, you cannot take any online courses and you cannot participate in any university activities, campus life. You will basically have no opportunities. So
you know what? There's actually been a lot of confusion with that. You actually, if you didn't disclose, you can still take on.
You're lying.
No, that's
I did not know that.
Yeah.
There's actually still some confusion.
They made it super. I disclosed for the same reason. I
Are
thought.
you freaking serious?
Yeah.
No,
and
yeah, you can
still
do that.
can.
How?
You still can.
They just used like fear tactics.
At my school too, I'm undisclosed. I didn't take it online.
Yeah.
You're freaking lying, guys.
It's just whether or not they have online is the actual thing. So yeah, no, actually, you could still take online courses. They just didn't make that clear in the communication.
Like, yeah, she was literally like, your department admin cannot do anything for you if you don't disclose. Like she literally said that to me. Oh my God, I feel cheated.
No, I don't know if you want to
It's
speak
normal
about
now.
that.
I'm just like in shock that you told me it's still okay. I did not have to disclose.
So what? Do you want to talk to that? Just like how does that feel finding out that the school kind of used those scare tactics to make you disclose when there were other options?
I don't think I can put into words right now. Just sitting here and just now finding out that I didn't have to disclose, I don't know. I actually feel cheated, and I feel they really could have done better. I think the minimum that the school could have given us, even with all the consequences of not being back or not disclosing, I think the minimum they could have given us is clarity in their instructions and their information. Communication has just been very unclear. The timelines just kept moving. It was very confusing, and the emails also came in the worst time, so midterms and exam time. And there's one that really stood out where the university administration were asking students to almost pester their friends, like their peers, to either disclose or get vaccinated. And I thought that was really odd. that's just like an overreach for me, I guess. It's like you're now getting students. So like it's one thing for admin to say it directly to students, but then getting other students to give that coordinated message to their own peers is kind of questionable. For me, the most important thing about this entire situation, like not just with the university, but just like with the pandemic and COVID, I really needed clarity of thought. So there's a lot of mixed messaging everywhere. Yeah, we're always like overloaded with like information. A lot of times they contradict each other. So for me, in order for me to make proper decisions, I really needed to have that clarity in my thoughts. And so when this was happening to me, where I was risking my enrollment, I was risking like scholarships and other opportunities, I wanted to make sure that whatever decision I made, I made properly with all the information, like as much information as I could gather. So that meant that I had to ask the school for clarity on some of the messaging that they were giving me. It was really in the winter where I experienced like the worst in communication with my school. Ryerson University actually has a specific account that you could email, who are tasked to answer all of our questions regarding the vaccination policy. And I've been emailing them since January asking for just very basic information, such as, could you please show me the legal requirements for the vaccination policy? Because the legal requirements had been the basis for this policy. And so I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what those legal requirements were. And long story short, they wouldn't really give me proper answers. They would give me really general template responses. I am looking at the email thread that I've had with the university. The majority of what I see is actually just me following up because I didn't get a response. It's actually kind of sad reading it now because one of my emails literally just said, "I'm trying to understand. Can you please respond?" The last response I received was, "We have provided all the information we can at this time and will not respond to further emails on this matter." I actually even tried to follow up saying, "So what are you no longer responding to? Is it just my last question, or is it the vaccination policy in general?" And they didn't respond. And then they came out with an announcement recently. Actually, 8 days after they told me that, they came out with a new announcement about how they were pausing the vaccination policy for the spring and summer. And I had another question, and so I tried to see if they would be able to help me with my next question, but I still didn't get a response. So at this time, I don't think the university can even help me gain any clarity of thought, which is sad to say because I don't think it is controversial to say that a university is there for their students. So for me to not have like a really basic support, which is a response to my email or my concerns, I'm not really sure what to say about. I just feel like that's definitely a problem. My department, so my philosophy department, they understood that they themselves couldn't do anything about Ryerson's policy. They actually helped me a lot in enrolling in courses, like creative ways of enrolling in courses just so I could continue even 2 out of 3 courses that I was supposed to take. To this day, they continue to be supportive of me just to stay afloat. I didn't realize at that time, for example, in the fall semester, how horrible I really was doing because of all the stress that came with the vaccination policy. I just thought that it was like the same stress that any grad student would have, or any student in general. Even when I was an undergrad, I was really stressed. But then you think about it again, like, and you look back and you're kind of like, is it really okay that I'm stressing about discontinuation in my studies, or just like not even knowing whether I would be in school next semester? Is it okay to stress about no longer being employed just because we have a vaccination policy that's really questionable? So it actually took me a while to process that. It was stressful, and it wasn't even like a healthy stress. It was really distress. Like I was actually getting straight A's in the fall term until the very end when we started receiving just a barrage of emails telling us what would happen to us if we didn't comply with the vaccine policy. And even in the winter term, even though we were able to find ways for me to stay in school, not having a job and not being in the same environment as my peers who I should have been learning with, I think it really got to me. And so financially is also really tough because I do fully support myself financially, and I've been doing that for like years now, and I don't remember the last time I didn't have a job. And for me, the sad thing is that both of my jobs were at the university, and since the policy applies to not just my education but also my employment, my contract had to be terminated just because of the vaccine policy. So yeah, I don't have a job right now. Talking about COVID or your vaccination status or just like the pandemic in general is just totally stigmatized, especially if you're a minority. Any conversation for me really, even just like if somebody asks me how are you or like, oh, what have you been doing lately? It's like, do I tell them I'm trying to speak up about this, or are they sick of hearing about COVID? Professionally, I do fear that if I went up to a professor, for example, and what if I wanted to ask them to be my supervisor? I kind of do have this fear. I want to say irrational fear, but I don't even know if it's irrational. I have this fear that they would know about my situation and then judge me for it. And it sucks to have that in the back of my head. It's always hard to take that step to just be honest about the situation, because obviously like nobody wants to feel judged for whatever's happening to them or whatever choices they made. But I guess for me at the end of the day, it's just about the truth, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the truth, and so I'll just say it. I was definitely willing to do testing. So Ryerson in the fall, for I think a few weeks, they had a rapid testing program or for people who didn't disclose or weren't fully vaccinated. And unfortunately, they stopped offering that option for, I think, around October onwards. But I would have signed up for that program so I can continue. But one thing I would not have been okay with is continuing online, like meaning if my peers could be on campus, but then I couldn't be, and I could only be online, I would not be okay with that. Me being online is kind of like making that divide obvious, and so I would not have been okay with online. Things seem like they are coming back to normal. Like the fact that I can go into a restaurant is nice and it feels normal. But like as much as I'm really glad about things opening up and then even having the vaccination policy paused, there's always a concern that the mandates would come back. And I mean, all the institutions make it very clear that all of these control measures would return if they deemed it necessary. In order for this to really have full closure is that we need to start admitting where the mistakes happened. We've been having these mandates for what, like 1 or 2 years already. I think at this point we'd be able to evaluate whether or not they were effective. Scholars and researchers have been coming out and making it known that a lot of these control measures are really concerning and that we should reevaluate mandates. I think we really need to make it clear that we are doing that, and if there are mistakes or errors that happened, then those mistakes should be owned up to so that we don't continue making the same mistakes moving forward. But at the end of the day, I feel that I did my due diligence in creating whatever judgment I have now, and it's something that I evaluate constantly because we are always getting new information. I really questioned whether there's space for me here. Is there space for somebody who asks questions? My whole experience has been that I can't ask questions and that I should just follow. If I can't ask questions here and I can't learn here, maybe I need to find a different way of learning. In addition to that now is that If I don't stay, who's gonna ask questions? Guys, I was going to quit my program. I was going to quit a program that I was dreaming of being in undergrad. You know, if we're really gonna advocate for having open conversations, I can't just leave. We can't leave. We have to stay. We have to stay and make those conversations happen. To me, Amity means, in addition to friendship and unity, I would say a new chapter. A new chapter meaning, let's have conversations now, or let's ask questions together. Things that we just haven't been doing the past 2 years.